All right, we're live. How's everybody doing tonight? Andy Gomes, Duct Tape Garage, what's going on? So, obviously, tonight's topic is continuing with last week's topic, diagnostic tools and techniques. How was everybody's Thursday? Been a pretty off week for me. Just, I don't know, for some reason, the whole household is just feeling kind of weird, you know? Oscrow, what's up? A Murray, what's going on? Just, Quick Wrench, how you doing? Just for some reason, nobody in my household wants to do anything. I guess just because the weather turned cold and ugly. Oh. So anybody got any tool questions or anything like that right off the bat? Quick diversion from that. I was watching one of the management gurus live stream he does on Facebook, and it was surprising how many corporate buzzwords he used in his little ad. I mean, let's call it's an ad for his company. And it was surprising how many just corporate buzzwords he was using. And it was a live video, and I was watching the replay, and it was like, how many, like, oh yeah. I was like, really? Okay. I guess I should use more of that kind of stuff in my videos. Zeke Puff, I work on Hyundais, mainly warranty work, and the dealer doesn't provide a scope. It makes a lot of stuff more difficult than need be. Yes, it does. And the sad part is Hyundai, Kia used to have as part of their scan tool scope, I believe, before GDS, and they used to provide waveforms, which always, was always awesome. As an independent tech, when you had a known good waveform that you could compare against, was always great when they had that information in there. But yeah, I mean, that's wouldn't be a bad idea to pick yourself up something like a hand attack or the AES Wave U scope or something like that, and just play with it when you get a chance. It's definitely a useful skill to learn. I mean, I can't preach that enough. Yeah, there's lots of stuff you can do with scan tools, but there's a lot of stuff you can't. And that's where scopes really come in handy. I know a lot of trainers especially, but a lot of YouTubers also overemphasize the need of scopes as well. But, there's stuff that really scopes you just cannot replace. Greg Barrett, I'm doing great. How you doing? Tesla Tech, what's up? One of those long Thursdays. The thing is for me, these Thursdays aren't as long as they used to be. Before, when I was filming at the shop, I'd be there, till 9:30, 10 o'clock every Thursday, which is why I'm able to do these live streams now. So it's overall, my week's easier. Not, having to stay at the shop standing around for 3-4 hours. So the automotive chaplain, I hate when it does that, the chat, when it just bounces. The automotive chaplain, what's going on? Lugo Pena, what's going on from Chile? Very cool. Corey from S&A Auto, the many looks of FRM. I got a haircut. The only reason I got a haircut is my son had picture day for his senior class, And well, that's the only reason I get a haircut is when my son needs a haircut. Chuck Phillips, what's up? South side of Chicago. Very cool. ISO, what's up? Hopefully there'll be a good bit of that kind of stuff. Rob Carr stuff, love the background. If I will play with it since he's talking about it. That's what my background looks like. I use NVIDIA Broadcast. I've got an NVIDIA 4080 in my streaming PC, and it replaces the background with AI stuff. But yeah, I mean, the gamer background kind of thing, people got tired of it pretty quickly. So, and since I've got this system, I figured I'd try it, and it does decent. It's, it's about as good as a most green screens, so it's pretty decent. Chris Martino, what's going on? Scott Ennis asks a very good question. When do you decide to move from the scan tool to an oscilloscope, and why? And what do you use a scope for most often? There's a lot of different scenarios with that. When you've got inconsistent data from the scan tool, meaning you're seeing stuff that doesn't make sense, and you're trying to figure out if it's a logic issue, if it's a sensor issue, or you suspect like timing issues and you don't have good PIDs, or you don't trust the PIDs. That's a good way to go to the scope, is when you've got timing faults. So you can verify that it is in fact in time, where you've got a sensor dropping out and causing I'll give you a good example of, just take any generic, car with, overhead cam and crank sensor singles, and you've got a crank sensor fault code. Well, is it, I'm going to rephrase that, a timing fault code. Your vehicle has oil in it, and you're trying to verify whether you've got a timing problem or a sensor fault problem. And verifying that it's in time with a scope is much more accurate than a scan tool, especially if you have a possible intermittent crank signal or cam signal. So that's a really good use case for a scope. Is, you've got a code that can go a couple different ways, and that's when you pull out the scope. When you're looking at ignition faults, which is getting harder and harder to do, but ignition faults that, you can recreate, but is it a signal problem or something like that? Is, the ECM cutting out ignition because of another problem? I've had injector faults actually cause misfire codes, simply because, let me rephrase that. I've had injector fault codes triggered because of misfires. They shut the injector off, stuff like that. There's lots of really good reasons, but usually there's not a cut and dry reason for it. Looking at injector waveforms, when you suspect you've got issues with pintle opening, closing, or something like that. There's lots of reasons. Rob, I demonstrated that hopefully for you. Yes, Chris, that is Corey. So yeah, that's kind of a basic, but it's suspecting like suspecting compression issues. If you can hear it, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and put an amp clamp on it and verify it. Second Sam, Milwaukee Gen 3 high impact is just chef's kiss, needs more power, LOL. Chris Martino scope all the things. That have module issues and things like pin tension. It's hard to narrow down. Zeke Puff, yes. Pin tension can be one of the worst problems you can deal with because they can be so intermittent just simply by heat. You build up a little heat. Pin tension is still the same, but there's more resistance because of heat, and you can lose connection, stuff like that. Phil H, how do you get a locksmith license? What's all needed? You need to register with the NATSF. You need your locksmith license, which will give you a locksmith ID. To get a locksmith license and ID, you need to be bonded and insured. But as Corey said, NASTF, their website will give you all that information. But yeah, it's mostly insurance and being verified that you're not a crook. Basically what it is. Because remember, with locksmith licenses, you can access a lot of things on cars, and a lot of bad people do stuff with that kind of information. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just you got to verify through them that you're not a crook and you're insured and all that in your real business. Yeah, Zeke Puff, yeah, ghost codes all over the place. No real idea to narrow in on it. Those can be a nightmare. Trying to think of a good example I've had of pin fitment. Trying to think. I thought I had a pin fitment issue on the Chrysler CAN bus bar, like in a Jeep Wrangler. Using a back probe tester, pin drag was weaker on the one that went to the EBCM on a Jeep. I thought it was it. I replaced the pin. It still did it. Turned out to be a circuit board. So unfortunately, it was a cheap call because it was like $12 or whatever for the connector through Connector Express, but it did turn out to be the bus bar itself. So, and that was one of those ones that was kicking my butt because it was so intermittent, but it was not so intermittent that I was just like, send it on its way. It could be replicated. Just the circumstances for it replicating were varied and, that kind of stuff. Scott Ennis, preferred methods for diagnosing evap leaks on VW leak detection pump systems. The harder ones are now with the purge valve that is all plastic, makes it a lot harder. But basically for leak detection pump systems, it's going to be either system integrity, meaning a broken line or something like that, stuck open purge valve, or the leak detection pump. So normally, my normal modus operandi on those kind of systems is to verify purge valve operation. If purge valve operation is okay, I will then either run an automated test, which I think, God, it's been a minute since I've done one. If that passes, I know it doesn't have a physical leak, and then it's going to be the leak detection pump. But normally what I'll do is I will just cap off the leak detection pump, smoke test the system, look for leaks. No leaks, it's going to be a leak detection pump. But 9 times out of 10 on a Jeep or on a Volkswagen product, it's going to be the purge valve. I can't tell you how many purge valves I put on Volkswagens. The older ones, I mean, like the first thing I would do when I had leak codes is I would disconnect the purge valve, pull the hose off for the evap side with it running, check for vacuum, and 9 times out of 10, or probably 99% of the time, it was that. But those are the older systems. Still use the same purge valve, and it fails just as often. Yeah, just need that locksmith license. Jason LC, new techs need to know and understand voltage drop. It's a simple test, but they can't grasp it. Yes, I know. I have taught voltage drop so many times, and it's really good. It's not that hard. You're looking for voltage across a circuit, and if you read a drop, it's got a problem there. I mean, that's how I proved to another technician that ground testing with a power probe is also not a good method, because power probe would see a ground, and you put any sort of load on it, i.e. the lights that it was grounding for, the lights wouldn't work because it didn't have it had a bad ground. So yes, I 100% agree. I think last week I mentioned, voltage drop diagnostic. I think he's got a good video on it. I know Humble Mechanic does. Point them to those videos. Chris, yes. Scopes speak the universal language of electricity. It is voltage over time. There's nothing magical. I know a lot of people are very intimidated by scopes, but it's literally voltage over time. All a scope does. It looks at voltage over time, and it literally will show you everything you need to see in that circuit, or most everything. Gordon Freeman, yeah, data PIDs are what the car wants you to see, or the manufacturer. And you can't always trust them. I mean, I've had IDS lie to me. I know I've had a Tech 2 lie to me. Scan tools lie. They just do. It's like anything else. A scope can't lie. All it can show you is the voltage on that circuit. Dad's Diagnostic Specials. I scoped a CDI ignition coil on a quad for the first time the other day. It was interesting. I bet it was. Phil H. Can we say a drinking game every time I say, you know? Everybody has their own, better than saying, Funny story about the, is when I worked for MotorVac, I did presentations. And you don't want to say, during a presentation. So I came up with, like, here's the deal, guys. I don't know if anybody here has ever watched Friends, but Joey had a thing when he was learning lines for his soap opera, and he goes, the fart look. Because you were trying to think of your next line. So. Oscrow, yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that you can do with the scan tool. There's lots of things in other brands that you may not be able to do. Last week I talked about, Volkswagen 2.0s. If you trust the cam and crank sensors to be accurate, and you have negative 20% on the cam timing, it's out of time. So unless you suspect some sort of sensor issue, it's going to be out of time. So it just varies a lot on what kind of things you're doing. I've worked with technicians that are diagnostic guys that haven't done anything more complex than O2 sensors, and like evaps were just mind blowing to them, evap leak codes, because they've never had to deal with them. And like generally evap codes aren't that hard. They just really aren't. Let's see. Dad's Garage recently diagnosed a Ford steering gear intermittent no com with no scope. The wiring test suggests faulty PSCM. Came back with lab scope to verify cam signals. Cam's lab scope removed all doubt. That's one of the best things about a scope is it does. It removes all doubts a lot of times. Snake bite, yes. CAN bus issues, definitely scope would be my first go-to. You got to see what's going on with that signal. Snake bite, Kia, Hyundai have pin fit issues. So does GM. I think a lot of manufacturers do nowadays. R3YNZ, that's why I love watching Bernie's videos from ATS. He always preaches, don't trust the scan tool. No, I will trust a scan tool up to a point. But you have to understand what you should see in a scan tool for that particular car, etc. And when in doubt, when you're doubting the scan tool's reporting accurately, I know a lot of people don't have multiple choices of scan tools like me. For me, if I swap scan tools and get the same readings and they don't look right, I'm suspecting, something, and I'm going to pull a scope out. But yeah, so Rob's car stuff. Notice how many times you hear people say pretty much. Charles, here's a good one for you. How do you tell a business owner that a lab scope is better than Google? Better than Identifix? Unfortunately, some business owners, some shop owners don't see the value in testing. Let's be honest. One of the biggest problems with our industry is shop owners, service writers not wanting to sell testing. They look at testing as, oh, well, I don't know, I can't sell that. Well, then your car's not getting fixed, then is it, Bubba? Juan Ramirez, been a while since I had time to watch. You look happier, bro. I'm really happy, so thank you. Jason LaCrue, recently bought a new Snap-on DVOM because of how much diag work I've been doing lately. Haven't had any electrical diag in 2 weeks since buying it. I will tell you a better story. So I was working at a shop and had finally invested in a hub grappler. I'd been doing press and bearings like crazy at this shop, like multiple times a week. Pressing in, press on bearings multiple times. I bought the hub grappler, and my boss bought a fixture from Mueller Cups to more easily mount a hub in a press to press it out. All of a sudden, they just vanished. Like it was a month before I did another press in bearing. The next bearing I did was a bolt on. Chaka Gillis, thanks for the $2. Ryobi tools are trash. They are specifically for the do-it-yourselfer market. They are not, I know they're owned by the same parent company as Milwaukee, but they have no cross communication. They don't design Ryobi's tools. They're designed by Ryobi themselves. So, yeah, I don't disagree with that. A lot of people connect Milwaukee and Ryobi, and I've talked to the people at Milwaukee, and they're like, no, if they have to buy our technology if they want to use it, and that's it. So they can use the same facilities as Milwaukee, but generally don't. Garden State, 1 week into dealership life at Toyota. Been a great experience. That's awesome. Glad it's working out for you. Jason LaCrue, that's the reason I don't want to buy my own scope. My dealership has one, and I use it occasionally. If I ever need to buy one, I wouldn't need it for months after buying it. Unfortunately, that is the way. But it's good that your dealership has one and you can use it. You know, that's always a good thing. Is there ever a need to use delayed sweep on a lab scope? I don't think I've ever used it, so I don't know. I don't think so, but I'm sure somebody's could give me a reason why you would need that. But I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Peter SMAR. Charles, just to continue on, thank you for your answer. After lab scoped, has proven a PCM on a Duramax is not sending an injector pulse. He doesn't want to believe the signal and goes to see what Google has to say. You proved it. And if I'm not mistaken, that is an actual known problem on Duramax's ECMs or PCMs. Peter saying brought the Pro Max Tommy with the Subaru and Ford, spent $900, still haven't used it. It's the way of the world. You do a job a bunch, and then as soon as you buy a tool to make it faster, easier, it just disappears. Charles, by the way, thank you. You're doing an awesome job in Atlanta. Keep up the good work as always. Well, I appreciate it. You enjoy what you do, just like I do. I do. So there's a lot of BS in this industry, but the job is actually what I enjoy the most. Dumb or Dumb. Have you started getting EV or hybrid into your shop? Not EV. I've worked on hybrids before. Not a big deal. You know, they're just a little different. That's about it. Jason LZ says, I've never used a hub grappler, even though we have one, LOL. I use the snot of it. I never use the self-conscious about everything I say nowadays. I don't use the hub puller part of it. I just use a slide hammer, and then I air hammer out the bearing. I could do most bearings in 20 minutes if I've got all the parts. I mean, literally slide hammer out the, take the brakes off, obviously. Slide hammer out the hub, take out whatever pin clip, air hammer out what's left of the inside of the bearings, and I just hammer on and hammer out the race, lube it up, make sure everything's clean, the groove's clean, press it back in, press it all back together, 20 minutes. I mean, it makes so easy. There's applications where it's not as easy simply because of how much work it is to get it to the point where you can get the CV axle out. But, I mean, I can't tell you how many of those I've done. 20 minutes. Chris Martino. Because you are in the South, says Chris Martino. Do you even have rust here? Yeah, because you dang Yankees won't stop moving here. Tyler Foster, I'm doing great. How you doing? Yes, I've dealt with, unfortunately, a lot of rust. Hubs come out easy. Ball joints and tie rod ends, not so much. It's one of the advantages of the, now not severe, like you can't even, see where the nut used to be on the CV axle, not that bad. In that case, I would just cut it off, order a new CV axle along with everything else. But yes, no, I unfortunately dealt with a lot of rust. Stoic Steel, I work on a lot of diesel pickups, so I use the bolt driver to remove hubs. I generally use an air hammer if they're significantly rusty. I do the Erico air hammer trick. I've got Big Nasty, so I usually get them out pretty decently. Have knocked a few hubs out. Actually, the hub and left the center part still in there. Peter, haven't been in the field for a year. How is car count and flow in your area? What do you think the future of the industry will turn out? I mean, the future is the future. You never know what's going to happen with it. Car count's been fine. Flow is variable just by area. To give an example, Buckhead car traffic is very different than outside Atlanta where I live. Like Buckhead, tax time, shops drop like a rock because most of your customers were having to write checks for taxes. Whereas out here, lower income area, tax season was, everybody getting the refund and they were going to fix their junk. So it's varies a lot by just area. Industry will turn out. It'll keep going. There's always going to be needs for technicians. It's not going to change. What we do will change probably a considerable amount. You figure you'll be doing a lot more ADAS stuff. You're going to be dealing with, hybrids and, whatever the future brings for propulsion, because I don't think it's going to be EV. Hydrogen's a really good possibility, even though that's kind of scary, but more for the compressed hydrogen riding around in cars. But, the future we're always going to be needed for technicians. There's always going to be a market for us. And on most levels, there's going to be guys that are going to be pigeonholed into doing the basics, tires and that kind of stuff. And then you'll have the higher end guys. And then a lot of guys, doing the manual swap stuff. You figure EVs, batteries replacements is heavy line, and they'll still be needed. So there's always going to be technicians out there. Snakebite, what do you think of Topton Scan Tools, aka Launch? I bought a Phoenix Lite 2. It's pretty decent, but I still go to my Autel for more sophisticated issues. I'm not real familiar with the Phoenix Lite 2. Launcher is my go-to scan tool now. Autel, chances are, okay, put it bluntly, every scan tool is going to have holes. I think the Launch scan tools are great. They have holes. I've had holes in Autel. I've had holes in Snap-on. Every manufacturer is going to have something that it doesn't do, may not do right, etc. I've been pretty happy with Launch. When I had full access to a fully updated Autel tool, I almost never actually went to it. The Launch would always do what I needed to do, but your mileage will vary. But the thing about it, Launch, is it's not quite as user-friendly as far as the interface as other scan tools. So, and yeah, when you're not used to it, like when I first transitioned to Launch, it was a definite learning curve for me. Used to Snap-on, OTC, Bosch, and Autel, learning curve. But chances are, if it's the tool I believe it is, it should have pretty much everything the Autel does, just in very different areas. Jonathan Elsley, LOL, I'm in Canada and we have rust and corrosion. Like I said, we have rust and corrosion here. It just ain't local. Atlanta has a very transient population. We get a lot of people from all over the country. I've worked on cars that were tagged license plate from Alaska, from Canada. I've worked on, pretty much every state, including Hawaii. Haven't worked on a car from Puerto Rico, though. But again, I've worked on cars from Hawaii, Alaska, Canada. I want to say all of the provinces of Canada, but don't quote me on that. Simply because I didn't pay super close attention to where the province was that it was from, but Jason Elsley, I have bigger nasty and it's moved a lot of metal in 209 years. LOL. Jeremy Doplinger, what scan tool for DI would you suggest for bleeding ABS? Any of the more basic launch scan tools will do what you need to do. Anything above the basic DIY stuff, for like $500 you can do. I don't have it in this room, but I did a review on, what is it? Search launch scan tools and I've got a budget DIY full function scan tool as I think the name of the video or the thumbnail, but that launch scan tool will fit your needs perfectly, and it's $500. So very, very good bang for the buck there. Andrew Leitz. Tyler Foster, can you do a video on how to talk to customers the right way without being rude? That would be a good topic to talk on. I can do a video like that. Now you want me to do it from a technician standpoint, trying to get information, or are you more service writer kind of related? Just let me know. I could probably do both angles, but Andrew Leitz, what are your experiences with aftermarket CV axle for Euro cars? Audi, for example. Has not been good. We had one Audi that I think we tried every aftermarket axle available for that car, and most of them were completely wrong. I think we finally got two that actually fit, were the right length, and they both had severe vibration, and then we put an OE axle in and it was perfect. I've had pretty Europeans and in particular have been problematic. Now there's one brand that WorldPack carries that is the manufacturer for the OE axles, XYX or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. Those were good, but it was only for Volkswagen Audi, and those were a newer addition to WorldPack. Chris Martino might be able to know what I'm talking about. But yeah, those axles have always been problematic. Vibration issues, boots tearing very quickly if they don't have vibration. 20 years. Learning 66, what's going on? Charles, if you have access to a hub grappler, they are amazing. Every press and bearing gets done with either my Astro kit or my hub grappler, period. I don't do it on a press anymore. Learning 66, always going to be junk to fix. Yep. Chris M just replaced the boot on Audi OEM axles. You don't deal with the Audi junk I deal with. They're not rebuildable. Not without, replacing everything, including the outer half. I've had customers wait till they're completely clicking and making all sorts of noise a year after you told them their boots were torn. So, as much as I don't want to, I don't want to reboot axles, they're usually not savable at that point. Stoic Steel, I see diesel electric in the future for anything bigger than an SUV. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, hybrid vehicles, trains are hybrids, Every, diesel train in this country, I think, is a diesel hybrid. So I definitely think that would be definitely the way to go for trucks over full hybrids. Dumb or Dumb. It depends on what brand you're referring to, but Audi chew through them, even OEM. Yeah, they do. There's no way. There's no doubt about that. Stoic Seal. Yeah, I knew what you meant. Charles, there's a hole in one of my launch Autel scan tools that still allow me to clear 18 and up Dodge Chryslers. Yeah, the problem is you're going to lose functionality on newer vehicles, so you're kind of but that's cool that you can update them without having your tool updated. Jeremy Dopplinger, I live in the salt belt and deal with rotted out garbage. LOL, it's a skill. Yes, it is. A skill, unfortunately, I've had to learn. So, yeah, no, it's definitely a skill I've had to learn. Cutting off nuts and not damaging the threads. Skill I've not mastered, but I've gotten decent at. Jeremy, yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely, that would be the one I would suggest for what you're looking for. Chris, thank you. I appreciate it. ISO and reliability, my TSX, absolutely all over any Eurocar I've ever seen. 170K running like butter. Too bad a deer totaled it. You're comparing a Honda product against European. That goes without saying. Follow, what's going on? Yeah, Snakebite. Yeah, you need the auto auth subscription is only $50 a year. It works for the personal one works for up to 5 scan tools, I believe. But you also have to have a fully updated scan tool. If you let your scan tool go out of date, it'll no longer work with auto auth. You have to keep it updated. That's one thing. Olred, what's up? Chris Dorback, going rate in Georgia for A, B, C, G, S techs. Ohio is 35 to 45, 24, 30, 15, 22. I haven't looked at GS techs or C techs. The problem is most of the C tech jobs are like at chains and tire shops and that kind of stuff. A techs, 45, 55 an hour. B techs, 35 to 45 is generally where it's going to land. But the lower ones I haven't looked too deeply into because I'm not a C tech. RSX 123, cutting off nuts and saving the threads is a skill I've also learned out of desperation. Laughing my It's not a skill I've learned out of desperation. It's not wanting to have to extract the stud. If you can save the stud instead of, having to get it out of the hole, it's easier. Douglas, what's going on? How you doing? Dad's Garage Specialist C-Tex makes $42 an hour here. Where are you? Where exactly are you located there, Dads? Stoic Steel, Honda and Toyota just blow the competition out of the water in the car market for longevity. Yeah, a lot of people are fanboys for certain brands. I think they're all junk. They all have their benefits and problems. And surprisingly, how well a car lives entirely depends on how well you maintain it. There's cars that definitely take abuse better than other cars. But Toyota has not had all of its, Toyota and Honda have definitely had their own issues. Peter Alessandriani, how do you feel about telling a customer it's time for a new car? My last boss always wanted to take the customer's money and fix their bucket. His theory was they'll get it fixed somewhere else. If a customer insists on fixing their car, I will take their money. I would strongly advise, if I think it's not worth the effort or the money, I will strongly advise them to not fix the car. It's their money. They can do whatever they want with it. If they, Devin, GS Tech is a general service technician. They do basic stuff. A lot of times they'll be hourly, not flat rate or anything like that. They'll do tires. They might do brakes. They'll do wiper blades, basic services, that kind of stuff. They're the initial technician getting into the shop. I honestly would prefer they take that money and put it towards a better car than trying to fix a bad car. Just simply because it's a better use of their funds. Because 9 times out of 10, you're, fixing just one major problem and they've got 4 others that are going to quickly follow. And if they put, let's just say they put $2,000 into this car and a month later, or I'll give a good example. We had a customer at the old shop and they needed, I'm going to say it was front calipers, front brakes, all that. They had a massive oil or coolant leak. I forget what. That made it, I think it was a coolant leak that made it undrivable. Their brakes were metal to metal into the calipers. And they had, it was like a $2,000 bill to fix this car just to make it drivable. And it needed 4 tires. I'm not even making this up. It was still undrivable when it left the shop. I, denoted that, this car is not drivable even after repairs in the work order. Remember, at that shop, I had access to the work order. I could write into the work order, cord showing, dry rotted tires, and they insisted that they fix the car. I'm pretty sure they were never told about the tires. Honestly, I would bet they were not told about the tires. I wouldn't test drive it. I vacuum filled the cooling system. I let it idle in my bay for, I think, 30 minutes to make sure it wasn't going to overheat. Pumped the brakes. I drove it through the parking lot a couple times and parked it. Made sure the brakes were good and bedded in, but I would not drive it. it should not be driven out of the parking lot. But I, you know, I don't agree with, we could do tires, and tires were so weird at the old shop because they were like hard on tires right now and then didn't want to touch tires, and then they were wanting to do tires, and then, whatever, I don't care. And but they insisted on doing only the repairs. So I don't know whether the customer insisted on it or the service writer just pushed that on them. I don't know, but I don't agree with that kind of stuff. I think a customer should definitely be informed of all the issues. Again, I don't know, I didn't listen to the conversation or anything like that. I was told to do those repairs. The car was still not safe to drive even after I did all those repairs. So if they drove down the road and blew a tire out, let's say they pulled out of the parking lot, drove 2 miles down the road, and a tire blew out because the cords were showing, and they're out another $1,000 that they don't have, was that a good investment for a car that literally was worth $1,000 after they put the $2,000 in? And I'm not being facetious. It was not worth $1,000 on Kelly Blue Book. So it was a bunch of body damage. It was an older car. It was just it didn't need to be fixed. It should have been sent to the junkyard and they should have got another car. But again, not my money, and I don't know the conversation that will happen. So I don't agree with that situation, but yeah. Anyway. Charles Johnston, I'm on year 2 of automotive, so I'm doing general service technician jobs. I'm paid $20 an hour. As a C-Tech with 30-hour guarantee, 15-hour bonus incentive. Cool. He also asks, I'm a new technician and I've been watching Scanner Danner Premium to learn. Any other resources for me to learn that anyone here could recommend? Super Mario, Erico does a lot of repair videos that'll help you with workflow and that kind of stuff. There's Practical Mechanic. There's tons of channels. Trained by Techs, another good diagnostic channel. If you have access to the WorldPack training system, they have a lot of online courses that are offered for little or free. But if you have to be a WorldPack customer, but there's tons of resources. I did a video a couple weeks ago about a great resource for technicians, Gearhead Garage. He has a curated YouTube list. It's like $15 a month. It's a lot of great videos in there. Something to look at as well. If you go to that video, there's a link and all that. And I do get a commission for that, but it's a really cool listing of a bunch of different videos that I'd never even seen. So there's lots of good resources there. Corey SNA Auto, he used to do a bunch of videos. YouTube's great for training nowadays. Motor Age, their channel, Brandon Steckler does videos on there. Great resource as well. Chris Storback, what is your standard of recommend for confirmed head gasket problems, Z-Day? Recommended depends on the vehicle. Chrysler 3.6s, I recommend an engine. We've had cracked heads, warped blocks, pulled threads on the blocks themselves. Those are just a great example of chuck it out, get a new one. Used engine or whatever, but doing head gaskets is just a no go on those. a lot of the Toyota stuff with the aluminum block where the threads pull out. Generally going to recommend a new engine on those. Like Chevy Chevy LSs almost never blow head gaskets, but if they do, or a head has to come off, threads may pull, but put a helicoil kit, or not helicoil, but time cert in them. Generally, a lot of the ones that blow head gaskets, honestly, I would prefer to recommend an engine, simply because there's so many additional problems that can come up. But again, it's on an engine by engine basis. Like if it's like 180,000 miles on it, I recommend an engine regardless of what it is. But that's, if there's a known problem with them, like there's a Hyundai V6, it's a generation, and the old shop, it got recommended head gaskets, and the former Hyundai tech said, it was like Santa Fe or something like that. He's like, don't do heads on these. You need an engine. The warranty company declined it after they asked us to tear it down. So that did suck. But yeah, it really depends on the vehicle itself. So there's no real standard, but if they're known for block problems or head problems, generally recommend an engine. Preferably low mileage if used, but I prefer reman across the board. RSX, ATEX make 45 Canadian in Toronto. That's 32 US, and we're in the Rust Belt. Ouch. ISO, why do nurses average 90K a year after a few years, but as skilled technicians need to fight for that kind of pay? Why are we undervalued? And nurse friends typically out-earn me, and they're younger. They have a degree. It's not a few years, dude. You're not going to one of those late night nurses assistants classes and getting 90K. You're an actual RNA. Which is registered nurse, not RNA, nurse, not a RNA or anything like that. I don't agree that, I think generally technicians should be making more, and it's getting better, but yeah, I do agree that, we should be making a lot more money than we do in a lot of cases. ATEX, Dad's Garage, ATEX making 50 to 60 right now where I'm at. About where I'm at in this area. Here in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta. Eyeball Room, the only car you'll ever need is a 1990 Toyota Celica. ISO, yeah, but they're also... Have you ever done chemistry classes, ISO? My daughter has. My daughter's also done physics classes. A little more involved than just, what you think. It is a high-level education. But I agree we should be making more. I'm not disagreeing with you that. But don't discount what nurses go through either. And... You think, let's be honest. You know what the I guess failure rate of nurses staying in the profession is? It's extremely high. The amount of nurses that don't stay in the profession is very high. They tend to burn out very early. Long working hours. They see people dying all the time. Bam Bam that used to work at the shop, his wife is a children's nurse. You think, seeing kids die when she's a mother. So, let's just be honest. They have different problems than just money. So, but yeah, like I said, I think we all should be making more money. That's what I keep advocating for, is we should be making more money. So, Tyler Foster, how much does a diesel mechanic make per year? A good diesel mechanic can easily make over 100K. 150K is not out of the realm of possibilities either. You're up in a fraction of the personal investment. Have y'all not paid for college? You know, they have 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 in personal loans for school. So Stormy Young, I got 320,000 on my Lincoln, no big issues. Garnett just wrote up a car yesterday for 42 hours. Yeah, I've been there. Paulo, you should have stayed in school. My wife's a nurse. You know. RSX, yeah, but nurses have to clean up poop. Dude, poop is one of the least disgusting things they have to clean up. The automotive chaplain, in North Carolina, I'm seeing ads offering 18 to 35, depending on skill level. I've also seen ones offering 6 to 1,200 a week. All areas just depend on multiple factors and what your shop has a focus in. Yes, pay in Atlanta depends on what part of Metro Atlanta you're talking about. You can be talking about, Canton, and it'll pay different than Gwinnett or DeKalb or Kennesaw. To give you a good story is people don't realize how massive Metro Atlanta is. It is huge. Metro Atlanta is not just inside the perimeter, it's outside the perimeter too. So it varies just across the city of Atlanta, or I should say Metro Atlanta. So yeah, it does. Eyeball Room, I was a diesel tech for 15 years. The most I made was about 70K, always hourly in a lower income area. It depends on everything. Garnet, yeah. Jeremy took 2 vehicles in for Diag lately and left with no answers at all. Was told to load the parts can in to fix my son's 94 Ranger. They threw an OT sensor in it, and good luck. Figure it out myself. Okay. Stoic Steel doing alignments on junk vehicles that need everything from front tires to ball joints and wheel bearings is my least favorite job. I absolutely hate that. It's straight up the customer is throwing money away. There's no way around it because you cannot get a good alignment with worn components, period. Those are the same people be back screaming because their tires wore out after you did their alignment, even though, you've got 2 inches of play in the inner tie rod end. That's the stuff I rail against is it's not worth it. It's literally not worth it for whatever you're charging for an alignment. Garrett, I don't know, 5 years ago, almost easier to scrap a car, get a new one. Now where we live in $150K truck that's 10 years old is $20K. Hard to not put money in to fix it now. Well, not talking about, trucks for the most part. Trucks are generally worth more anyway. So it's easier to justify fixing them. But we were talking about an old POS Nissan Maxima, which is what I was talking about. It's not worth anything. Andrew Leitz, there's a Dutch guy called Diagnose Dan. Always learn from his videos. Yeah, Diagnose Dan. He's a cool dude. Have his shirt in my room. In my dresser, I have his shirt. I know Diagnose Dan. You're welcome, Charles. ISO. There's better pay out there. Believe me, there's people making a lot of money out in this business. Tyler, do you watch Rainman Ray? He does car repairs on YouTube. No, I don't watch. I pretty much don't watch any car repair videos. I get enough of that. I don't need to watch it being done. I'll watch diagnostic videos. I'll watch other content, not repair videos. I just don't. I do it. Daniel, what is pass watch? I believe you mean pass lock. Yeah, you delete it. No, you don't delete it. You have to bypass it. Scanner Danner has a video on how to do that on pass lock 2, I believe. Yes, all pass lock is looking for a certain resistance in the key. Once you bypass it, everything else will still work. It's just the key part of it that has to be bypassed when it goes bad. ISO 60K in student loans can be paid off quick, under 5 years if you save and work hard. After that, you're set. It's depressing because wrenching is beautiful and difficult, but so underappreciated. Yeah, but you got to understand, people in 60K worth of student debt generally don't pay it off in 5 years. It's best if they do, but most people don't work with debt like that. Eric Jano, what at-home scanner do you recommend for just getting basic code information? If you need basic code information, like the little Autel or the little Launch scan tools, the little handheld ones work great. The ThinkCar dongle that connects to your phone is also another great option. That's actually, that's actually more full functioning than a code reader. Those are pretty cheap and they're not, stupid. You just have to Bluetooth it to your phone. It'll get you good information. If you're more than basic, the ThinkCar, hang on. Oh, this little guy right here. I don't know if it'll come up on camera, but that little guy right there, available on Amazon. Bidirectional controls, everything like that as well. It's a good little tool. Or if you want more of a handheld type, the Launch has plenty of options on that. Just depends on how much you want to spend. But if you're just looking for a basic code reader where they'll give you diag information, little Autel, little handheld will do fine for that. ISO dealers are paying more because they're being underpaid for years, and the talent quit. Now they're desperate for talent. Glad they're hurting. A lot of shops underpaid for years. We know that. Paulo, what are your feelings about side jobs for trusted family and friends? Do you know how many friends you don't know how many friends you have until you install a rotary lift in your garage? Yeah, It's like having a trailer or a pickup. I personally don't think it's worth it to do side jobs, especially in my time now with as limited as it is. I mean, if you're just doing it for a little extra cash and you're not doing anything major or big, I don't think it's a big deal. Just make sure it doesn't interfere with anything from where you work. Don't try to steal customers. I think it's okay. I haven't done actual side jobs in a very, very long time. I've helped some friends out, and literally didn't take any money for it. Just did it to help them out. But that's, ISO, I don't mean to sound negative, guys, but I'm frustrated. I understand that, man. Believe me, I do. I love wrenching, but I thought I'd be further along in my auto career than I am now. I accept that it's my fault, though, LOL. Probably not your fault, man. It's just, it's easy to get in that mindset. You're getting beat down. You're not getting raises when you think you should. Probably because you should get raises. And I mean, it's hard because you said before that in your area, nobody out there is hiring for real good money. It just kind of sucks for you. There's hope out there, man. It's just, you got to find the right place to land. So I would suggest you just keep looking for a better place to work and you'll find more money. If you're halfway decent, you can make more money. Charles, I just got off the one of my best customers. We're getting ready to take stuff to a whole another level, work on customers' cars, but a whole another level. Sorry to share, but I'm excited. Well, awesome, man. Hopefully it works out for you. Charles Magoo, there's a Rising Diag channel, automotive diagnostic and programming. Let's check them out. All right, that's the channel he's talking about. I know nothing about them. So there you go. Anyway, so oops. Let's go back to the main camera. So he's good according to Charles Magoo, so check him out. Peter Alessandro, it's comparable to college nowadays, 5 to 20K, depending on what you're schooling. Then right out of school, they expect you to have 30K in tools. I mean, it's comparable to a lot of careers. Schooling for technicians is generally way less expensive than a lot of other careers, as I'm paying to put my daughter through chemistry school for college. You have to, it is what it is. I mean, you don't have to have 30K in tools to work in this industry, especially starting out. But well, good luck, Charles. I hope it works out for you. X DuPont, I went from cars at 40K to heavy duty forestry equipment and started at 60K. And after 2 years, hit 90K for the last year. Went to construction equipment, was going to make 72. So I left after 6 months. Then went to forklifts. Now I work 42 to 45 hours and make 94K with better and cheaper benefits. Well, awesome for you. No, I mean, that's great. There's money to be made in this industry. Snakebite also endorses him. Automotive Diagnostic and Programming. ISO, wow. That sucks. I don't know what dealers you've been working for, but they're pretty crappy. Gripe about dealers that you be new to the brand and get a car with a CAN bus issue before you even take any online classes. That's crazy. I mean, generally a CAN bus issue I would assume be under warranty. So that's kind of weird. Paulo agrees. You need to. Uh-oh. What the hell just happened? Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I don't know what my internet just kind of dropped out for a second. I don't know what happened. Anyway, yeah, Paulo, you got to find a better place to work, ISO. Charles, I think hands-on training is more valuable than tech school. Does anyone agree or disagree? My coworker with 30K of trade school debt was fired last week. The thing about trade schools is you do need the theories and all that. Whether you get it on at a class or in school or live, whatever, and get it demonstrated to you, you still need to know that information. One of the best ways to get it is, unfortunately, in a classroom. And I've said it before. You put in what you get out of school. It's just straight up the way it is. How much effort you put into learning the material is what your knowledge is going to be when you get out of school. You can go to a basic college and be fine, as far as, whatever. You can compare schools across UTI and all those brands. Humble Mechanic is came out of UTI. The effort you put into it, so that guy didn't put enough effort into what he was doing when he was in school. But then again, the most useful information is definitely going to be in the field. Practical demonstration of what you've learned. So I don't think there's a replacement really for either. It's a lot harder to teach that kind of stuff in the field and learn that kind of stuff because most shops don't let anybody teach you. Most shops don't put an emphasis on having a shop foreman there to help a young technician learn. And that became pretty evident at the old shop. Is the owner didn't want me teaching technicians. He wanted technicians just to produce. And anytime I got pulled off of my stuff to help a technician, he was like, ugh. And it change of attitude, but it is what it is. Tyler, appreciate the letting everybody know to hit the like button. Devin McCowan, best bang for buck DVOM in your opinion? Ooh, I don't know. I have to think about that one for a minute. Rolls. I'm looking. Forget who. Oh man, I can't. Feel like I'm wasting y'all's time, but we'll go ahead and swap over. All right, so this little Matco multimeter, I cannot for the life of me remember who makes it, but it's cheaper than 149 from them. One thing I would recommend is get new leads. It's available, and I'm trying to remember who makes it, but this is a very good, affordable DVOM. And I think it's like $100 for the OEM. Let's see if anybody. Nobody really talks about it, but yeah, no, I mean this. Wish I could figure out who makes it. But for the OEM, it's like $100 or something like that. Let's see if anybody in camera, if anybody in chat news remembers who the OEM is on that one, that's a really good basic DVOM. Back to that. Make sure I'm still live streaming. Dad's Garage, hands-on apprenticeship works with the right candidate and pay plan for the mentor. Yes, it does. It very much does. It was one of the things I loved being a shop foreman, is being able to teach. Stoic Steel, the lack of pay raises is common amongst many trades. Unfortunately, if you're not willing to move all the time, it's hard to make top dollar. I did a video about that. I agree. You're every non-trade, most employees have a yearly salary review and get a raise as long as they're meeting expectations. And in this industry doesn't do that, and it's stupid. So unfortunately, yeah. Chris Storback, no replacement for school, but some few are capable of self-learning. You get what you pay for School of Hard Knocks is a real thing. Yes, it is. If you learn to make sure and check a fuse the hard way, you remember to check fuses or grounds or anything like that. But yeah, you learn a lesson the hard way, you will remember that lesson. Tyler Foster, my parents have told me to get a job first before going to auto repair school. Not a bad idea. I mean, the thing about it is you're not going to be doing anything major, just going to work at you're going to be doing basic stuff, but you'll definitely figure out if you like doing what it is. That's one of the hardest things about any career. This is not unique to automotive, because there's tons of people that get a degree, get out of school, go get a job, and they realize they hate it. They hate the job, and some people are going to love this job. Some people are going to hate it. So it's definitely not a bad idea to go, look at getting some experience and see what it's like to be in a shop. X DuPont. Let me scroll back down. The lack of pay raises, they read that one. ISO, the thing is, writers and customers are stupid, don't realize it's a CAN bus problem until I pull it in. That is more a writer's problem. I mean, honestly, that is your service writers not asking the questions. And that's something I've complained about with, you cannot believe how often they can't ask basic questions about a problem. I mean, when does it do it? And if they're not smart enough to understand that, oh, this is not a basic problem, this is something I should make sure my advanced guys get, they're the problem. Snakebite, agreed, but you need to do hands-on training, but you need to learn the basics in a trade school. You don't have to do it in a trade school, but you need to know the basics. You need to understand basic electrical, hydraulics and all that kind of stuff. Alexi, what is it? I don't know. I don't know what you're referring to. Chris Dorback, what are we referring to? This is a passing job when you see other trades making more money. I've been wrenching for 16 plus years. Hurts to see this awesome industry fall apart from BS labor rate issues. Getting better. I mean, it's definitely getting better. It is a great industry. I mean, there's problems with any industry. I keep saying this kind of stuff, but the grass in other industries has different problems. It's not, like we complain about buying tools and all that kind of stuff. You go to another industry and, they provide tools, but it's a, old drill from 1972 because the guy won't upgrade, or it's a broken DeWalt from 20 years ago, etc. There's other problems in other industries. Don't think there isn't. The perfect example of that is my brother's in IT. I got fired from my job, and a couple months later, he got downsized out of his job. Third time for him in his career, he's gotten downsized. So I've been fired. I've never been downsized. ISO, I love when I get a car with a noise or some BS after another tech did $2,000 worth of work on it, but he's busy on another job, so he didn't have to look at the car again. Writers are all clowns. Yes, that car should go back to that technician for warranty. And don't think I haven't written that on a ticket. But yes, that is a writer's problem. A good mentor can teach everything that's required. Yes. But they have to take the time to teach them. And teaching book stuff is not always easy to do in the field. Klein DVOM. Charles Johnson, my mentor, is an A-Tech at the shop. He basically is foreman as well as at Christian Brothers. He makes guess 50 to 63 flag. He told me around 140 a year. Okay. Fluke 115 is another good option. X DuPont traded school is only as good as the effort you put into it. Yep, pretty much. X DuPont, watching your videos definitely help with my path. Well, I appreciate it. That's why I do them. Stoic Steel, I've used the Fluke 117 for 6 years now. Charles Johnson, I love that basic Matco multimeter. It's cheap and it works well. I mean, so Dad's Garage, I like my Fluke 233 with remote display, but it has a terrible battery life. Yeah. Quick Wrench Tool Junkie, I think it's the same DVOM as the Astro DVOM. I believe that's also rebranded. But don't quote me on that. I don't believe it's Astro. Charles Johnson, I like the basic Matco multimeter, but it doesn't have min-max or duty cycle. The Cornwall multimeter is 200, has more functions. He was asking basic. Peter, I never regretted going to tech school, learned a lot, was able to do some pretty cool things I've never got to do within 20 years in this field. You hone your craft with time. You learn from your mistakes. Very wise. Chris Storback, dollar amount for you to fly to Ohio, all expenses paid, to inspect and give feedback on my shop, watching your content for years. A lot. How long? Email me, Chris. If you're serious, you want me to do that, email me. We'll talk about it. Tyler Foster, which one is good? Flat rate versus good benefits. Everything has to be weighed out. Benefits are part of your compensation package. So, I'll use easy to picture numbers. Say you're making $100,000 and your boss is offering a benefits package that's worth $10,000. Your total compensation is $110,000. Using these just for basic numbers to, it's 110, not, 50, 60, whatever. Just for basic, don't get all upset. That's your total compensation. Whereas if you make $110,000 and you have no benefits, you make basically the same, but you don't make the benefits are basically offset by you having to pay for your own benefits, health insurance, etc. So you have to take it in consideration, all of it. It's just the way it works, it regardless of how you get paid, the total package is what matters. If you're making, $60K and you've got, you're choosing between making $60K and, no benefits, or $70K and no benefits, obviously you're going to take the $70K. But, if you're making $65 and you got $5,000 worth of benefits versus $70K where you're making no benefits, the $60K job probably makes a little more sense. Stoic Steel, I did 2 years in a junior college for auto tech, got a lot out of it for the money. The instructor ran the program similar to a real shop, so those who didn't like it changed majors. That's a good way to do it. Lucky, I'm moving out of state. I've been hourly and salary position for over 6 years. I'm about to transition to flat rate at a higher pay rate. I'm nervous because I'm terrible with electrical. Am I going over my head? I don't know. Depends on what electrical you deal with. It's, you never know what you're going to get when you move to a different shop. I've always said this because I've moved shops and had to rearrange my tools in my roll cart simply because I don't work on those kind of vehicles anymore, or had to move, tools into my toolbox because I now work on those kind of vehicles. You don't know what you're going to get till you get there, man. So hopefully it works well for you. Paulo I have a bachelor's degree in management. Hated corporate culture. Grew up a gearhead at 25. I started wrenching for 11. It was a bumpy few years, but I never regret it. It's awesome, man. Yeah, it's a very rewarding career. Jake Mathers, like an old video you had, sometimes you have to move to get a better pay. Yes. I mean, if your boss isn't willing to talk to you about a raise and it's been 2 years, you probably need to move shops because he's not going to pay you anymore. It doesn't matter what you're making. Somebody out there is willing to pay you more. $18 more an hour flat rate. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Charles Johnstone, I work in Texas. I think the pay is more here. Could be. You're welcome, Chris. Bill, what's going on? How you been doing? ISO, my TSX has an OEM spoiler that the previous owner installed, but I want to remove it. Thing is, it's got drilled holes to install. Any tips on sealing them? Stickers. I mean, it depends on what you want it to look like. I mean, bolts and rubber washers will seal it. Put a little RTV on the, two rubber seals. Put a little RTV between them, bolt it together. It'll seal up. It just won't look pretty. The real way is to patch the holes. So that's about the only way you're going to fix it to look good. Ulred, no, you're not. I got a seventh grade education and make $120K plus a year. I don't know where that came, whether the no, you're not. In context. But anyway, you can make over $100,000 in this industry. It's more than easily possible. Just Chris, snow doesn't bother me. Send me an email, man. I'll figure out what I can do. I guess wintertime's slow. But no, I'm not afraid of snow. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, man. Push clip with a little silicone. Yeah, it's, Ulred, you either got it or you don't. End of story. I mean, in fairness, it's not always if you've got it or not. It's whether or not you're willing to ask for it. A lot of times, people are not willing to ask for what they're worth. Either they think they're worth the moon, which usually means they're not, or they're not willing to ask for what they're worth. So the work itself, may be there, but they may not be willing to change shops to get the higher income and ask for it. All right. What other questions we got about diagnostic stuff? Charles Johnson, my mentor, had a similar education, but he was excellent at diagnostics. I mean, let's be honest. Other than reading comprehension and maybe math, and that's basic math, geometry, how much do you really use what you learned in school? Who was the, king during the French Revolution does really matter to auto repair? It's a weird icon on there. So anyway, no, if you can learn it, you can learn it. So Phil H, thinking of getting out of the automotive industry, been in it since 99, maybe get into the assembly line due to them wanting more than the guys fixing them. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. You have to understand assembly line is very tedious. So if you're going to be happy doing that, do it. That's all I can say. Devin, very true. The only dumb question is the one you didn't ask. I mean, it's better to know the answer than wonder. Tyler Foster, can you do a video on how to make more money when you get in the automotive industry? Once you've gotten into the automotive industry, it's not hard. Quality work efficiently, and then ask for more money. I mean, it's kind of how it works. You have to produce quality repairs, and then ask for more money. It's not hard. It's not, I don't know how good of a video that would be, because it'd be pretty dang short, because it's literally how you do. You get better at what you do, you work efficiently, and you pretty much put out quality repair. If you do that, the shop manager owners should have no trouble giving you a raise. Phil H, do you use any of the launch-based scopes? Yes, I do. They're Hanatech rebrands with launch software. They're good. The scope leads are not the greatest. Sample rate is not as good as Snap-on or Pico or ATS. Entirely usable though. Entirely, could be a great scope. Just the only scope you have. It's a good scope. So there's no reason not to use it. Just replace the leads. Dan Prudhomme, for those joining late, can you list a quick top tools needed for diagnostics? Top tools, test light, incandescent test light, a good scan tool that can do bidirectional controls. For me, it'd be a scope. There's no replacement for a scope. Good service information, good wiring diagrams. Those are the big ones that you really need. You need a way to load test the circuit. You need a way to see what's going on with the vehicle. You need to be able to see the voltage over time, and you need to be able to know what you're looking at and how it works and how it goes to. Service information is irreplaceable. So those are the big ones. Hope that helped, Dan. Tyler Foster, 35 likes. I appreciate it. Spelling number 1. Hey, man. If it wasn't for Google spell check, I wouldn't know how to spell. Louis the 16th, I believe. Yeah, but how many times in auto repair have you needed that? Steve McGee, I got a 2-channel scope and want to become more comfortable with it. What would be some easy components I could check on a car to practice setup? Cam signal. If you've got a readily available cam signal, easy to get to. If obviously not. If the vehicle you're looking at it, the cam sensor's under the intake, and you got to take stuff apart. Not a good example, but if you can find a good cam sensor to scope into, great way to look at standard sine waves. Depending on what kind of sensor it is. Crank sensors are also good. Wheel speed sensors, usually pretty easy as long as you got a lift or car. When it comes to using a scope, the best thing you can do, and you're asking about it, is to scope known good cars. Trying to use a scope without knowing what a good signal looks like is a bad idea. You need to see what a good signal looks like. So when you can look at it and go, okay, I'm getting good information, except this part drops out. That's how you know you got a bad sensor, is when it drops out. Not when you're not getting a signal at all and you don't know whether it's your setup or everything else. So yeah, that's the ones I would suggest. Quick, easy, simple sensors. Mass airflow sensor will be a good way to see hertz. Less needed as far as in my opinion, but it's also an easy sensor to get to just set up a scope. So those would be ones I'd look at. Paul, what's going on? Haven't talked to you in a while. How you been? What scanner is in the background? That is a X tool. It's an old picture of my toolbox. Old Red, you miss 100% of the shots you didn't take. Yes. Sean Key, I got a 12 Optima 2.0 just replaced engine vehicle somehow lost program in ECM. Fixed that now. Vehicle won't start. Check grounds and all connectors. Not sure what I'm missing. Is it cranking? You probably have a pinched wire somewhere would be my best guess. If you've checked all grounds, believe the 12 Optimas have the main battery ground. It's under the battery cable, under the battery tray, and it's one of the most missed grounds on those cars because it's under the battery tray. I would check that for sure. Brian McFarland, flat rate. I have a Kia Sorento. That horn sounds weak. Battery test shows good battery, good alternator volts, good load testing. Had to jump it off in a good cold spell. You need a battery. If it's a Midtronics or something like that, I've had many of them pass a battery in a shop and then fail when it gets cold. Phil H. So should we just get a Hanatech instead of paying the launch price? Probably. You have to have a laptop to hook the Hanatech to, whereas the launch one goes right to the scan tool. Snakebite, what's your least favorite vehicle to diagnose? Oh God, probably Mercedes, just because of the customer base. Usually complicated, usually they don't want to pay kind of stuff. Are there any you will not touch? Old pieces of junk. They're just not worth it. You're going to go through hell to get it to pass emissions, and then something else is going to break. That's the ones I really don't like working. Coexist, just stay hourly and milk the clock. Sign up for OT, you'll make money. Antonio Marietti, thinking about buying a Matco Maximus 4. How do you feel about the software program on it compared to the Snap-on Zeus? It is a launch scan tool. 100% it's a rebranded launch, sold through Matco. So it's excellent. It does a lot more than the Snap-on Zeus for less money, even through Matco. I would definitely prefer the Matco over a Snap-on. I'd not spending $14,000 for the holes that is Snap-on. So Stoic Steel, I have a habit of losing my test light. That's why I have multiples. Honestly, I have multiple scopes on a rope, if you know what I mean. In fact, not too long ago, I had to replace one because I lost one and had to put a new butt connector end on it. Not butt connector, but banana clip. Currently using AutoFix, which is a rebranded Autel. Seems decent enough. Yeah. Phil H. Everyone I work with never uses a scope, says it's a waste of time, but the lead guy is struggling with the crank performance code for 3 days. Use a scope. Olred, ever write a ticket up selling spelling number 1? I don't know exactly what you mean there. A mobilizer, yeah. I didn't think about that. He said it programmed it, so that's a good point, Snakebite. Phil H, yeah, Snap-on used to be bee's knees back in the day. They're probably 3 or 4 in line, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of holes in their stuff. Dan Perdome, as a new tech, a video on story writing tips would be very helpful. I can do that. That'd be a really good idea. Paul, that I used to work with, that was in the chat a minute ago, is a excellent storyteller. He worked at the old shop. Man, he wrote some novels. He had excellent write-ups. So yeah, I can definitely do that. Brian McFarland, hey, Flat Rate, for DIYs, is there a decent phone apps and Wi-Fi OBD2 scanners out there to diagnose? I talked about it earlier. It is by ThinkCar. It's this guy right here. It's available on Amazon. It hooks to Android or iPhones. Paid app. Just upgrade to premium or whatever it is, and you get basically a full functioning scan tool for a couple $100. And it links to your phone. Not my favorite. But yeah, no, I mean, it's decent. Stoic Steel, have a good night. Paul Stramecki. I like Snap-on for Toyota, Lexus, GM, and Hyundai. My launch seems to have the largest gaps for those brands, in my opinion, anyway. Thought you were selling your Snap-on. No, I mean, personal preference. I haven't had any trouble specifically with the brands you're talking about, especially GM. I mean, honestly, I would choose the Snap-on for graphing over anything, honestly. But opinions vary. Quick wrench tool junkie. Which scope you like better, Launch or Autel? I know they're both Hanatech. Honestly, I can't really tell a major difference between them. The software works basically identical. So I couldn't specifically say one is better or different, or even it looks like the same software, just with a slightly different GUI. I mean, it's not even that much between the two brands. So I would guess that Launch and Autel are just reskinning the Hanatech software, would be my guess. So they're about the same is what I would say. Phil H. Isn't it crazy how fast you forget a place you used to work at? Yeah, how you been doing, Paul? I hadn't heard from you, so how's everything going for you? Pico for scope. I mean, Pico or ATS are probably the best. Phil H, I've talked about that. Hanatech replaced the leads. They are junk. Launch, Autel, Hanatech, get new leads. They suck. They have a filter. They still suck. The filter doesn't really deal with that. So yeah, I would, like, when I was doing testing on the Launch scope, I used my Pico leads. I didn't even bother to use them because I knew they were already noisy. And I think I actually used them once on a test, and I'm like, no. because it was like way away from a coil and was still picking up the coil. And it was like a ways away from any coil. So like through an intake, and it was still picking up the spikes from the 3 coils. So definitely replace the leads on the Hanatech scopes. Cheap snap-on alternative for a scanner with data graphing. I mean, most of the Launch, Autel, OTC, Bosch all do graphing. Even the basics, like the little handheld, the little dongle I showed, does graphing PIDs. They're just not as good as Snap-on. The way Snap-on does their graphing is just excellent. So, but Launch, Autel, X-Tool, all the different rebranded ones, all graph usable data. So don't think just because I say that. But yeah, there's plenty of options out there for graphing data. Chris Storback, changing topics. I haven't been a gamer for years. What's better, Cyberpunk or Starfield for an 8-year-old boy? It's going to depend on what he's interested in. Starfield is more of an exploratory game. It's a world building game. So it can go on for literally years. You're building spaceships, you're exploring the space. It's a fighting game as well, but there's lots of side quests and that kind of stuff. Cyberpunk is less so than that. It's more of a story driven. There's an end to it, even though there's multiple endings. It's kind of what he's interested in. If he's really into space and that kind of stuff and exploration, Star Wars, that kind of stuff, Starfield looks awesome. I've never played either game. It's not my kind of cup of tea, but it's either will be probably fun for him if he likes that kind of gaming. But definitely very involved. I mean, like I don't know personally, but I've heard people have like hundreds of hours into Starfield already, and it's only been out for a couple months. Cost effectiveness of an Xbox versus PC for said games. The Xbox is going to be a lot cheaper. PC gaming, your minimum, you're going to be about $1,200-$1,400 plus monitor, keyboard, mouse, just to get it playable. Those are both pretty. Cyberpunk's a little more optimized. Starfield is still a pretty poorly optimized game. There's lots of there's not hacks, but mods for the game in other genres, or you can buy not authorized, but mods for the game to make it more optimized. But Xbox is going to be cheaper. Ultimately, if he wants to game, he should really look at a PC, but it's going to be more expensive. But to see if he just kind of likes it, an Xbox will be a good starting point. Carl Johnson says don't get Cyberpunk. Charles Johnson, one time a technician wrote up work on a 1989 Jeep Grand Wagoneer, then quit. I had to do 9 hours of work on it as a C-Tech. The way old engines use vacuum is intricate. The A-Tech couldn't help, LOL. Having repaired many vacuum systems back in the day. I mean, you'd start out with a spool of vacuum line, and half of it be gone by the time you fixed the vacuum system, and you'd be going, make sure we get another one of these because we're going to need it on the next one. Is Launch Scope a rebranded Hanatech, Mike Eustace? Yes, it is. It's just straight up a rebrand. Antonio was told by a Mako dealer that Top Done and Autel are using the same, have the same stuff, just the Top Done does just copies Autel. It's not a copy. It's like a, best way to put it is authorized rebranding. So it's not a copy, but yes, it does get updates later from what I understand. But yeah, I mean they're all authorized rebrands is the best way to put it. So basically, it's like when you buy a launch tool from Matco versus buying it from Launch. It's the same kind of deal, except Matco's a direct launch. What I'm saying. Anyway. Paul, who owns the Launch scan tool with the 2-channel scope, says, don't waste your time on the 2-channel scope box. The 4-channel is way better. Trust him. So, guessing you got the 4-channel after the dealing with the 2-channel, huh? Phil H had a recommended video for YouTube from Gene Simmons on how to do his makeup before I joined the live chat. Dude, recommended videos are so horrendous now. I don't know what's going on. I get recommended videos. Like, I watch a lot of videos on my tablet, and like, there'll be keep watching. A video I've never watched will be in the keep watch or watch again category. And I'm like, I've never watched that video. And then the amount of stuff that Top Done is Launch, yeah. Cool, I'm glad to hear it, Paul. He's keeping busy. Andrew Carnegie, have you ever worked with the Autel that does the network topography? I did a video on it. And if so, how handy is it? It is great for especially network problems. Is it the end all be all for the network? But like, it's a handy thing for when you hook up to a vehicle with network problems where you've got like an entire sub network that's down, and like it should have navigation, so it should connect. So it's really useful for communication issues. Now, the topography is not exact. Don't take it as a network map as far as like the YTech software. It is literally the OEM software for Stenlis, Jeep, Chrysler, Ram, and all that. The topology on that one is actually a network map. So when you pull up on that scan tool, you're literally looking at how the modules connect. It's not as exact as that. So don't take it as gospel that because those two modules aren't reporting that they're, that's how it goes. You need to look at service information for that, but it's really good, useful information for communication faults. Because you can quickly see, this entire network's off. Whereas if you do a system scan, you might not put together that an entire network is not reporting. So it's very useful for communications. Chris Storback, great text, makes terrible business owners change my mind. Most business owners make horrible business owners. I mean, let's be honest. Most people do not know how to run a business. They don't know, you talk about ARO or, all the little buzzwords that, shop owners like to use, and they don't know what the hell you're talking about. I mean, you pull up a P&L for most people is like, what's that? How do you run a business not know what a P&L is? So anyway, can you make a video on how to be safe in a shop while working on cars, please? I don't know on that one. I just, Top Done is a launch rebrand. Yeah. Paul Stremecki. I keep mispronouncing his name. Don't get under a car if you don't feel comfortable with the jacking. Yes. Always check a car a couple inches off the ground. Make sure it's fully on the lift. If you don't feel comfortable with it, stop. Check everything. The lift is one of the most dangerous things in the shop. A car falling will kill you. Who cares about the damage to the vehicle? A life can't be replaced. So always double check on the lift. Mike Eustace, I just have to say you look healthier now. You got rid of a lot of work stresses. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Paul says, still have the Torx 5 at the price point. Save $500 and get the Torx link. Yeah, true. Charles Johnstone, our shop had a Topton scan tool with topology, but the battery stopped working after a month because of an unknown battery issue. Now we're using an AutoFix scan tool. I mean, that's one of the reasons. Tyler Foster, can you make a video on communicating to your techs? Probably that one I can do. That's one of the reasons why I recommend Launch so much. People don't understand. I've had 2 Autel scan tools go bad on me. And Snap-on for the all the complaining about their tool. I had a scope module go bad on my Modus Ultra and had some issue on my Veris Edge. I think it was a scope issue as well, but rock solid tools. As far as the actual scan tool itself, the tablet. The same can be said for Launch. I can't say that for X tool. I can't say this for any of the other tools. I don't know what they're building the actual tablet from. Topton maybe, I don't know, but it's, with Launch, I know it's a Lenovo tablet, so they should be good. And I have not had any issues out of my Launch tools. Anyone want to watch repair videos? Jimmy Making It Work has some good ones. Cool. Chris Storback, why do so many techs want to open a shop then? Because nobody appreciates them. Thanks, FRM. Have a good night. Yeah, that's true. Quick Wrench, Tool Junkie, Avalanche Throttle 3 with a scope box. Nice tool, yeah. When they have trouble speaking to customers or your boss. All right, Paul, have a good night. I appreciate you stopping by the chat. Hope everything goes well with your family and all that kind of stuff. It's good seeing you in the chat. So have a good night, Paul. Renegade, what's going on? You need to use your communication skills when it comes to automotive repair industry. Yes, you do. Yeah, that'd be a good one for how to write a story. That'll be a pretty good video. So anyway, communication with bosses has never been my strong suit. In case you can't tell, I'm a little abrasive. right. It's 9:40, so I think I'm going to go ahead and call it. Hope everybody had a good night. Hope everybody enjoyed the stream. So, as always, thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.